Hey guys, so now that I've shown you how to get Cinema 4D, today I'm gonna introduce to you the super basics of Cinema 4D, how to basically just create shapes and be able to move them around. I'm just gonna introduce you to some very basic controls of Cinema 4D. So that's what we're gonna learn today, and as these videos progress, we're gradually getting to the more complicated and start designing real animated shapes and get into all that. But today we're just gonna go over the very super basics. So the first thing I'm gonna do is show you around. So right here, this right here is the perspective. So this is where you can see your project visually and you can see how it's going visually. And through this you could basically just modify and move shapes around while seeing it. So that's what this is. And over here to the right is what I call the shape organizer. So it basically organizes your shapes, and what it does is every time you create a shape, the shape itself pops up in here. So it tells you what shapes you have and how many you have and what each shape is. And if they're grouped into if they are grouped into any if they're in any groups, then it will tell you, it will group the shapes together, and you'll be able to see which group each shape is grouped with. And if you add any other modifiers or anything else to any shapes, then it will show up either beside or in a section underneath that shape. So that's what this does. And over here in the right here is the project settings. So right here is basically the settings for each each thing you're interested in. So if you're like if you clicked on a shape or a move tool or any other modifiers, the settings for that, for whichever thing you've just highlighted, will pop up underneath here, and you can adjust these settings to your whatever settings you favor. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. And you don't have to worry about these spaces now. We'll get to these spaces in later videos. Uh, yeah, later. And so the first thing now we're gonna do is make a shape. Now that's basically what everyone does first, is they have to make a shape. So right now we're gonna make a cube. Now the cube is the most basic and most common shape in Cinema 4D. With a cube you can just basically eventually, with the correct controls and settings, model anything. So anything is possible with a cube. So what we're going to do now is create a cube, and to do that we just go up here. So you see this button with the blue cube? So all you have to do is click that. And there you go, you've created a cube. So once you've created a cube, as you can see, this has changed. The shape organizer now has the cube in it. So I click that, it see how the cube gets outlined in orange? That means it's highlighted. And so whatever I do now, that's what I do to the cube. So whatever I want to do, if I want to move around, the cube moves around. And down here, you see the settings have changed. They've turned from project settings, which is the default setting, to the cube settings. So now you can have, like, you see on like these basic settings and coordinates, that tells you where the cube is, due to coordinates. And you have the object, so you can change its size, you can change the number of segments, which is especially useful. We're getting to each of these settings in a later video, but today we're just going over the basics. And then finally there's font. We'll also get to this later. And so that's how you create a cube. Now if you want to create another shape, that's simple as well. Just go to cube, click and hold, because if you just click and let go, it's going to just create another cube. So what you want to do is click and hold, and it'll give you a whole list of other shapes. Now let's say I want to create a cylinder. So I'm still holding down my mouse, and I'll just drag it to the cylinder, and I'll let go. So there you go. Now you have here a cylinder and a cube. So and you see on the settings, the settings have changed from cube to the settings of cylinder. So there's each shape has different settings because of their different shape. So you'll see some more or less tabs, like there's caps and slice now, as you can see right here. And so once again, like I said, whatever shape you highlight, that's the shape that's kind of featured in these settings. So see how the cube here is bordered in orange, and the cube here, and the cylinder here is outlined by orange, and the cylinder and the shape organizer is highlighted in orange. That's why the settings have the cylinder as the settings. So if I click on cube, now the cube's going to be highlighted, and the settings change back to cube. If I click on cylinder, it's back to cylinder. So that's something you keep in mind. Now also, what we can do is we can rename shapes. Like if we're gonna create some kind of like let's see, like an animated figure, we don't just want this to be called a cube and a cylinder, especially if we have multiple cubes. We want to know which cube is which and which shape is which as well. So we can rename this cube. So what we can do is double click the word cube, and so now we can type in whatever name we want it to be. So I'm gonna call this cube Homer, and just press enter. And I'm gonna rename this cylinder. I'm gonna call it Marge. So as you can see, I'm kind of a Simpsons fan right here. So now what we want to do is I'm gonna now show you how we can move these shapes around. So I want to direct your attention to over here. You'll see these 4 controls, and these are the 4 fundamental controls in moving shapes around. So first off, we have the selection tool. So this can select whatever shape you want. So with this tool, if you want to move a cube, you first have to select the cube, and then if you want to move a cylinder, then you just go up here and select cylinder. So right now we can't really select the cylinder because it's inside the cube. So we want to move the cylinder out of the cube. So what we do is we go up here, and this is the second tool. This is called the move tool, and what it does is it enables you to move the shape you want. So right now I have Marge, the cylinder, highlighted, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move Marge out of Homer, and I'm gonna do that. You see these 3 arrows here? So these 3 arrows enable Marge to move in the direction that these arrows are pointing. So the green arrow stands for the y-axis. So each arrow is directed towards one specific axis. There's the x, y, and z axis. So the green arrow stands for the y-axis. So it enables Marge to move up and down, just like along the y-axis. Notice that when I try to direct it left and right, Marge will not move left and right. She can only move up and down along the y-axis, no matter how left or how right my cursor is going. Same as with this one. This stands for the x-axis. Now Marge can only move in these 2 directions. And now the blue arrow stands for the z-axis, which enables Marge to move in these 2 directions. So using these, I can just move Marge out of Homer, as I've already done. Now, I also want to direct your attention to these arrows up here. They're the undo and redo button. Say I move Marge a little too below where I want it to be. So I just click undo, and she's back here. She's back. Undo just erases your most recent action. And redo, if I change my mind, I want March to be back down there, I just click redo. So it repeats the last action you undo. So I just click redo and she's back down there again. Now I want March to be up here, so I'm gonna click undo again. And now let's focus on Homer. So I'm gonna go back to the selection tool, and now as you can see, I can click on Homer and March independently. Notice when I have the move tool, I can also click on Homer, but since the move tool is focused on specifically this, the moving tools, it becomes a little harder to click on each one of them to select them. Now, the reason the selection tool exists is because this is especially useful when the object has multiple segments. So you want to select which specific segments you want to select to modify. So we'll get to that in a later video, and then you'll see how important the selection tool really is. So for now, that's what the move tool is. And now let's focus on Homer. Now you see these angles, these little triangle angles. So they enable Homer to move in 2 dimensions at once. So for example, let's take the green angle. So it enables Homer to move along the z-axis and the x-axis. As you can see, the 2 arrows that are highlighted and white, and this angle button enables Homer to move along these 2 dimensions. So let me demonstrate. So you see it's moving along he can move along the x and z axis at the same time. That's what these buttons do. So this, once again, see the 2 different arrows that are highlighted when I bring my mouse over to this angle button. So now Homer can move along the y-axis and the x-axis. So like that. This is the y-axis and the z-axis. So yeah, that's what they do. And I haven't really found a button that enables Homer to move in all 3 dimensions at once. I don't know if there's a button for that, but they might add it in, or it's probably hidden along some of these controls somewhere. So also what I want to bring up is that every time I move Homer with this, say I move Homer along the x-axis. So as you can see here, these are the coordinates. So in the settings under Homer, just click coordinates, and it'll tell you, you can see the coordinates where Homer is. So if I move him along the x-axis, as you can see, the coordinates for x are changing. And because of that, I can adjust these coordinates independently, directly. So say I want Homer to move 1 centimeter more along the x-axis. I don't have to just drag him like that, because it's pretty fragile. So I want to just click this button, the up button. If I want Homer to move 1 more centimeter across the x-axis, I can just click that, and now it's 41. If I want him to move down 1 centimeter, I just click the down arrow, and now it's 40. And also you can just enter in your own coordinates. So if I want to set this to 40 exactly, I just add in some zeros, and there you go. Now he's at 40 centimeters. So you can't really see him, move, because 1 centimeter isn't really that much. So if I wanted 50 centimeters, enter that. You see it's moved a little bit to the little bit more upwards along the x-axis. Now another thing I want to bring up is that you can make Homer move by 10 centimeter increments. So how you do that is, first you click this right arrow, and as you're dragging him along, just hold down the shift key, and now as you can see, he can only move by 10 centimeter increments. So this is very useful if you want to just move Homer along a specific amount of space, like just move a little bit to the right, like not too specific, like the real coordinates. So yeah, if you hold down shift while you're dragging Homer, you can just snap by 10 centimeter increments, and the same as Marge. Yeah, there we go. Now the next thing I want to bring up is the scale tool. Let's select home again. The scale tool is the third button for the moving. This is the third basic tool for moving objects around. Now scale tool doesn't really move objects, but it can expand them. So I can make Homer taller, and how I do that is just use this button, the y-axis scale button. If I click that and drag it up, you see it's becoming larger and taller. And same for this. Now they basically, all three of these do basically the same thing to a cube. And I could stretch them in 2 dimensions like this. Now this will be better demonstrated through Marge, so I'm gonna just select it right now. So if I use the y-axis scale to make it taller, use the z-axis scale, make it larger. Yeah, so basically, I guess right now, when you're focusing on one shape, they are, no matter which scale axis you use, they all scaled the same way. But this will change once we have individual segments, and once again, that will be later. That will be covered later. So now the fourth moving tool is the rotating tool, and now you can see it can rotate in 3 dimensions along the x-axis. I guess this is like the y-axis, and the z-axis, I guess. Yeah, actually these aren't really axes, they're like other axes. So let me see. So as you can see, when I'm rotating this, you can see the rotation down here, it's kind of changing. So you could also add in your own degrees, and you could basically just fill in your own degrees and where you want how much you want the object to rotate, and just press enter, and then there you go. Now also I want to bring up, you can do the same thing with the rotating tool by pressing down shift when you're rotating it, and it will rotate by 10-degree increments. Alright. Yeah, so in cylinder, in Marge, the settings for Marge, coordinates, you'll see the degrees here, and so when I rotate it, it's gonna change. So let me try something here. Oh, no. Let's see. So yeah, you can make Marge rotate yourself by just changing these coordinates by typing them in. So if I want to rotate a little 20 degrees, well, I guess H is for this axis, P is for, let's see. Okay, so actually wait. So P is for the wet rotating line, I suppose. And let's see what H is. H would be this. Actually, yeah, it's kind of confusing. So I haven't really accustomed myself to rotating this by just adding the numbers here, but I just tend to do it like this. Yeah, that's much easier for me. And also, I want to direct your attention back to the moving tool. So I'm gonna wait. Let me, yeah, rotate Marge back. I want to direct your attention back to the move tool, and as you can see, there are little orange buttons here. So these orange buttons are basically these. They're scale tools. So these orange buttons can still scale the Homer individually. So they can scale him in the x-axis, they could expand him in the x-axis, or in the y-axis, or in the z-axis. They basically extend them in the direction of a certain axis. So that's what they can do. Now the difference between these orange buttons and the scale tool is that the scale tool is more whole in its expansion. Like, if no matter which button I use, Homer basically expands in all directions. So they are the scale, these scale tools, the major scale tool is used to expand objects at a whole, in a certain direction, and in a certain direction if they have segments. And these little orange buttons only extend the object in a certain dimension, like X, Y, or Z. Now that's something to keep in mind. And also, finally, the last thing I want to bring up about these moving tools is that when you click on the scale, you see the settings over here are for scale. If you want to bring the settings back to Homer, then just click on Homer, and then his settings will show up with the scale tool still in place. Now I want to also bring something else up with the shape organizer. Boy, I spent a long time with the moving tools. Oh yeah, that's been a long time. Okay, now so notice how when I click on margin Homer, whatever shape I click on, it gets highlighted in orange. What if I want to say I want to move both Marge and Homer at once? So if I have Marge highlighted here, I can just move her, but Homer doesn't move. If I want to move Marge and Homer both at once, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to click Homer. So now they're both highlighted. And as you can see, when I move them up the y-axis, they both move at the same time. If I scale them, they both scale at the same time. Now, say I want to drop Marge. Now I only want to make Homer move, not Marge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control and then click Marge. So now see how she's no longer in orange? So now if I want to move Homer, only he moves now. And Marge doesn't move. So to include both objects, hold down Shift and click. And to exclude an object, to drop an object, just hold down Control and click on the object you want to drop. Now, one more thing. I'm going to show you how to delete an object. Now, okay, let's see. Let's try deleting Homer. So, or if you don't want any shapes highlighted, just click like this blank space, and none of the shapes will be highlighted anymore. Now, say I want to delete Homer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Homer, and while my cursor is still on Homer, I'm going to hit delete, and he gets deleted. Want to bring them back? Just undo. Now, we're almost done here. Now I'm going to show you how to move the perspective around, how to move your own view of Homer and Marge around. Also, let's make Marge a little closer to Homer. Yeah, because they should be together. Let's rotate Homer a bit. There we go, Homer and Marge. Actually, let's make Marge a little bit taller since her hair is pretty tall. There we go. Okay, that's Homer and Marge. Okay, now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to move the camera around, this perspective, your own view around. So there are 4 controls for that, and they all up here to the top right of the perspective camera. First one is the drag. As you click it and hold, you can just drag it around. Next one is the zoom button. Click it and drag your cursor to the right to zoom in, and to the left to zoom out. Third one is the rotating tool. So you can just rotate it around. Fourth one is the multiple cameras view. So if you click that, it will take you to all of the possible views. So there are, as you can see here, there are 4 views. There's the perspective view where all the shapes are basically solid, and then there's the top view, the view from the right, and the view from the front. Now, as you can see, the top, right, and front views are a little bit different from the perspective because the shapes are basically just outlined. They're not really colored in and shaded. Because for these 3 cameras, their purpose is so that you can see how something looks from the top, right, and front from different perspectives. So if you want to make something symmetrical, if you want to center an object on another object below it, then you could just use the top view and drag the object so that it's centered. Now, whatever view you want to go into, just click that view's corresponding multiple cameras tab. So you see how each view, top, front, right, and perspective, each have a multiple camera button on their top right. So if I want to go into the top, I just click this multiple camera button. And there we go. So I want to move Marge right next to Homer. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. So now I'm gonna click on this multiple cameras tab again. Then I'm gonna go back to my perspective. I'm gonna click the multiple cameras button on that, and here I am. I'm back. So right now Marge doesn't look really straight, so I'm gonna rotate her again. No, that's not gonna work. Okay, there we go. And so yeah, that's basically how you move your perspective around: the drag button and the zoom, the rotate, and the multiple cameras. So one last thing before this tutorial comes to a close. Let's say you get lost. Let's say you zoom too far in and you rotate a little, and you're like, oh no, what do I do? How do I get back to home and Marge? So one thing you could do is just zoom out. Now they're in a different perspective. But say you accidentally press the wrong button and you rotate it somewhat, rotate it too high, and then you drag it a little bit over here, and then you zoom in, and now you can see you can't find your shapes. You don't know where they are. So one thing you can do is just follow this blue arrow. You see this blue arrow right here? That's going to direct you back to your shapes. You click that, you go back to your shapes. Another thing you can do is let's say I just got lost again. Let's see. I'll get lost again. Yeah, there we go. So if you zoom out, and you're basically lost now. So what you can do to get back to your shapes is press O on your keyboard. So I'm gonna press O, and there, I'm back. So there you go. That's all. That's basically the how you move your shapes around and how you move your camera around and how to create shapes. So that's what we've gone over today, and next time we're gonna, I actually don't know what we're gonna do next time. I haven't written my lesson plan yet, but next time we're going to more we'll still be going over the basics, but we'll be going to other more developed controls in the next video. So that's it for this video. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. So thanks guys, hope this was a help, and I'll see you later.